Hello everyone, and welcome to the 5th collaborative video between Nurture Soap Supplies and Royalty Soaps for the Royalty Soaps piping set. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to use the large round tip, also how to create a beautiful mica drizzle on top of your piped cold process soap. Mica drizzle technique can be used for any soap you create, whether it be cupcakes or piped cold process soap loaves. And you can use any color you want so it matches absolutely every creation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to want to prep are the colors in 4 separate little mixing bowls and the oils and lye water solution. The recipe that I'm using today is right down in the description box. It's the same recipe that we used before with 10% more water. Now for the colors, I have added 1/4 of a teaspoon to each of these little containers, and then to 2 of them I have added 1/16 of a teaspoon of velvet pearl mica, just to lighten up the colors a little bit. So over here we have Lavish Lavender Mica, and this is one of the ones where I added the 1/16 of a teaspoon of the velvet pearl mica. Then we have Royal Purple. This is really beautiful. It's a purple that's sort of lavender with a little bit of shimmer of gold in there. It's very pretty. Then we have Empire Yellow, and this I haven't added anything to. It's sort of a light yellow color, also really nice. And then we have Sunshine Yellow, which is a more of a darker kind of gold color, and to this one I have added 1/16 of a teaspoon of the velvet pearl mica. Now I'm not going to be mixing these up with any of the oils. I'm going to add my soap batter straight to the colors and mix them up by hand. My safety goggles are on, and I am now pulling on my protective gloves, and I am going to be adding my lye water solution directly into the oils that I have set aside here. I am working in the upper 80s, and both the lye water solution and the oils are within 3 degrees of each other. Then I'm going to take my stick blender and mix this on low until I achieve a very thin trace. Thin trace is now achieved. It is just past emulsification. So I'm going to set my stick blender off to the side, and I'm going to pour just a little bit into each of these containers, maybe 6 ounces or so. I'm choosing to eyeball this, but if you would like to bring your digital scale over and make sure they are all exactly even, you can do that too. Now over in this little container right here, I have added 2 teaspoons of titanium dioxide and 4 teaspoons of warm water. So of this mixture, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons to the base soap, and I'm going to mix that up with the stick blender, as this is our lightest color. This brings it to a sort of creamy off-white color. Now I'm going to start with the lightest yellow and mix this up with the stick blender. Then I'm going to move on to the darker yellow. Now I have mixed up all of the colors with the stick blender, so I'm going to go around the edge with a spatula just to make sure that any mica that didn't get incorporated now does by me scraping up the sides. Now that all the colors are properly mixed up, I'm going to add the fragrance oil, and I'm going to be using this beautiful jasmine scent from Nurture Soap. And of course I'll be leaving that in the description box below. I'm using a total of 3 ounces of this fragrance. And then I'm going to be incorporating it using my spatula. I'm not going to be stick blending this because it is a floral and that might accelerate trace. So using your spatula and mixing it by hand is the way to go. Now that I have made sure the fragrance oil is good and incorporated, it's time for the design. And while you can do lots and lots of different designs, I have decided to do an in-the-pot swirl today. So I'm going to start with my darker color here, and I'm going to pour it into one corner of my big soap pot, and I'm not going to scrape that. And then I'm going to take the other purple and pour it into the opposite corner. Now I'm going to take one yellow and pour it into the corner. Again, not scraping out these containers because I'm going to add what little bit is in there onto the top of the soap. And then pouring the other yellow into the other side. One thing I really love about this mold and liner set is that I don't have to add anything to hold it up on the sides. And now I'm just going to pour this in directly. I'm not going to mix it up. I'm not going to use my spatula to make sure that anything has been incorporated or moved around and swirled. I'm pouring it in just as it was. And this is going to make sure that all of the colors stay relatively separate And as you can see, this fragrance oil does rice it a little bit, but it doesn't change how pretty it makes the design towards the end. Now I'm going to make sure that the bowl gets a really, really good scrape because I want all of the soap batter in there that I can get. And those colors that you didn't scrape, that's what's going to go on top, just for pretty. If you would rather scrape them and add them to the big pot, you can certainly do that. This is just the way that I wanted to. And I'm going to kind of drop it up from pretty high. This is what the soap looks like after I have added all the extra bits of soap that were left over in the containers. And something that's important to note is that after you add everything in there, you need to go along and scrape the sides of the mold so that they're clean on the sides, because whenever we pipe, we don't want the piping to be stuck to any leftover soap that might have splattered up on the edges. Once you've done that, it's time to set your loaf aside, and we're going to start on the piping and on the Mica drizzle decorations on top. I have 4 different mica colors that I want to drizzle on top of the soap, and it's the same 4 that I put on the inside of the soap. So what I did was I took 1 teaspoon of olive oil and put it into each of the containers here, and then I added the mica and I mixed it up with this little pipette, just like this, until everything was good and incorporated and there was no clumps. So in this one I have 1/4 of a teaspoon of Empire Yellow, and in this one I have 1/4 of a teaspoon of Royal Purple, and in this one I have 1/4 of a teaspoon of Lavish Lavender, and in this one I have 1/4 of a teaspoon of Sunshine Yellow Mica. And so to the Sunshine Yellow and to the Lavish Lavender I have added 1/16, I know that's very, very small, but 1/16 of the Pearl White Mica, and this is what makes it kind of muted, a little more pastel, sort of takes that super, super vibrant color and tones it down a bit. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I just thought it would look nice for my soap. So after all of these have been mixed up, and you're going to need 2 pipettes for it, one's for the purple and one's for the yellow, because if you mix it up, it isn't very pretty. Once you have done this, you're going to set these off to the side, and then you're going to mix up your piping. Now for mixing up the piping on top. Again, I have the recipe to this. It's the same one that I gave in the other video down in the description box below. And both my lye water solution and my oils are at roughly 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to move my stick blender over here. And to my lye water solution, I have added 1 teaspoon of titanium dioxide. So this is going to give the piping a very, very white appearance, which is good. That's exactly what we want. It's going to look really nice when contrasted against the colors we're putting on top and the colors inside of the soap. So now I'm just going to burp my stick blender, and I'm going to mix this up until thick trace has been achieved. That accomplished, it is now time to prep the piping bag, and today we're using the large round piping tip with the large coupler and the large piping bag. Now it's just time to wait for the piping to set up, and then we will start piping our soap loaf. The piping has set up for about 8 minutes, so it's time to start piping the soap because it's at the proper consistency. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 little dollops across the soap. One right there, one right here, and one right here, all the way down. I have where the bars are going to be cut marked on the mold. If you haven't done that to your molds, I highly suggest that you do. It will save you so much guesswork. And I'm holding the piping tip about 3/4 of an inch away from the soap. If you hold it too close to the soap, you'll end up with very smushing looking piping. It's going to be very, very flat looking, which you don't want. So I'm holding it again about 3/4 of the way up, giving it a gentle squeeze at the top of the bag, not at the middle. And I'm just going to work my way down very slowly. Remember, the piping gives you a lot of time to work. It's a very versatile recipe, so you don't have to feel like you need to rush through it, especially if you have mixed up the oils and the lye water at the proper temperatures. If you've mixed them up too hot, you might feel it starting to get hard, and then you need to start moving quickly. Patience is a virtue when it comes to this piping. After you have put the first row on there, you want to fill in the gaps really, really gently. Just a teeny tiny squeeze to fill those gaps in. You don't want a big piping amount like you did on the first way down. This is just a teeny tiny little kiss. Once that's completed, you're going to move on to the second row. And in between the 3, as you can see here, you're going to put 2. So wherever the gap is, then you're going to add 2 more little piping bits right here. Make sure that you're not adding it where you just put that little kiss of piping. I know it's sort of hard to look at it and figure out, wait, where is the original row sometime? But you need to be piping this on top of the original row because that's where each of the bars are going to be. And because we're piping this up, it is more important for the individual bars to look nice. I'm just going to continue this all the way down. If you have something like that happen, it's alright. That just means that there is some air in your piping bag, which you can try to avoid by putting in the piping to one side of the bag. Now for this last bit, we're not going to fill in these little gap spaces. We're just going to add one big pipe right here in the middle of each soap, and then that means that each soap has been completed. So just add one big one right there in the middle. And there we go, the piping is complete. Now it is time to add on the pretty decorations. So I'm going to move over my mica mixed with oil here, and I'm actually going to start with the darker colors. So this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to mix it up just like this, and then I'm going to suck it up into the pipette, and then I'm going to be very careful where I place this. I'm not going to just move it around wherever. You do this so that all of your mica doesn't overlap, because once it overlaps on your soap, it ends up looking really messy, and sometimes the colors get all mixed up and it doesn't look near as nice. So I'm just putting one little drop right here on the second layer. You can put it wherever you like. That's where I've just decided that I'm going to put it, and this is the royal purple mica. Now I have specifically tailored this to look light. There's a lot more oil in here than there is mica. Now I'm going to move on to the next color, which is the lavish lavender, and I'm going to suck up some in here, and then I'm going to put this wherever I think it needs it. This is a lot darker of a mica anyway. I'm just going to put this one randomly. Now I'm moving on to the sunshine yellow that has been mixed up with the pearl white. This is where it gets a little more tricky because this is a different color here. So I'm just going to look and see where the colors haven't been. And where I drop it, I'm also conscious of the cracks, because the cracks tend to soak up a lot of color. So if there's already a crack that has been filled with purple, like this one right here, then I'm going to try to stay away from that with this yellow. Also, giving each color a little bit of time to kind of soak into the soap a little bit is also a good idea. And again, I'm just placing these randomly where I see that there isn't any color. This technique can be done with any micas that are soap stable. So any design that you want to do this with, you certainly can. I have done this with lots of different colors and all of them look very, very pretty. So for the final yellow here, just again kind of placing it where other things haven't gone. And the purple has already pretty much dried. So if it happens to run over some of the purple places, it's not going to meld. I'm going to continue to fill in the gaps with any of the colors that I would like to add until it looks the way that I want it to. And when you're finished, it should look a little something like this. Now if you want to add glitter, you certainly can. I decided not to because I thought this was quite enough busyness on top of my soap. But if you are a little more inclined to like the shiny stuff, please do. And after everything is completely dry, that's when you can go ahead and add the 90% rubbing alcohol on top, just to make sure that nothing ashes. Leave this in the mold for 24 to 48 hours and then we will come back and cut it. 24 hours later and the soap is ready to unmold. So I'm going to tip this on its side and it's going to slide right out into my hand. If you have trouble getting it out, they have these convenient little holes on the bottom of the molds so that you can push them. I'm just going to pull from the sides here, then pull from the ends, and I'm just going to slide this into my hand. There we are, just like that. I'm going to put this right here. Then I'm going to line it up to make sure that the cut is going to be even all the way down. When it's been properly lined up, I'll let it rest right here. And I'll start pushing down very, very gently on the soap. It smells amazing. I haven't even finished cutting it and the scent is already filling up the room. And this is what it looks like on the inside. Isn't that pretty? Here's another example that in the pot swirl really, really mixes up those colors well, doesn't it? I hope you all have enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more like it, you can go to the Royalty Soaps YouTube channel. Once again, I will be leaving the links to all of the colorants, the Royalty Soaps piping set, and the fragrance oil down in the description box, as well as both the recipes that I used today. And so, until next time, have a royal day, and bye for now.